Okay, so today we're going to be rebuilding the Novarossi Rex 57 helicopter motor. We're going to be putting in a new piston, sleeve, and eventually a rear bearing. So step number one, we're going to remove the back plate, 4 screws. So after we get the back plate off, it should slide right out. Go ahead and set that aside. As you can see, it exposes the connecting rod, etc. Step number 2, we're going to take the head off. 6 screws total. Now a lot of this you're going to need an oven for, or at least I use an oven preheated at 350. I use it to get the sleeve out, also to get the rear bearing out. Basically what that does, the two metals heat at a different way. The crankcase expands faster than the steel does. Also make sure the carburetor is off. And one more screw here. And the head comes right off. Set that aside. It exposes a little cap. Take that cap off. This is what the glow plug screws into. Set that aside. Now you're left with obviously the sleeve, and you are fully broken down. So you're going to put the connecting rod at the bottom dead center. Sometimes you can get the sleeve out. Other times it's stuck in there. Normally is. So what I'm going to do, this is extremely important here. I'm going to preheat the oven at 350 degrees. Once it's preheated, I'm going to stick the whole crankcase in the oven for 10 minutes tops. And I'll be right back. Okay, and we are back. Motor is fresh out the oven. Obviously it is super hot, so you're going to need a rag. Let me show you a little trick of the trade on how to get this sleeve out. Put the connecting rod bottom dead center. Roll up a piece of anything you got, toilet paper, whatever. Go ahead and insert it into the exhaust port, like so. If you can see that. And then stick a piece of that rag and start moving the connecting rod up. As you can see, it starts to move the sleeve with it. Might take a few times here. And if not, you might need to give it just a little help with a flathead screwdriver on this side. Alright, this one's stuck in here pretty good. This motor was pretty beat. It's been sitting for about 2 years. Alright, we got it up just a little way. It's not enough, so I'm going to go ahead and plop it back in the oven at 350 for about 5 minutes. Okay, we're back. Put the motor in, 350 for another 5 minutes. Make sure the connecting rod, bottom dead center, everything is hot, be careful. Stick it through the exhaust port and move the connecting rod up. Okay, there we go. Okay. So we got it just enough, as you can see. I can get a flathead under there very carefully to pry that up. So very carefully we're going to go around it. You don't want to damage the crankcase. Baby's stuck in there pretty good. Just kind of work your way around it. Usually they're not this hard to get up. This motor's been sitting for 2 years. Extremely neglected. Okay, so we got it about this far. We're going to go back in the oven, another 5 minutes. Hopefully loosen this baby up a little more. Okay, we're back. Motor fresh out the oven. I couldn't have picked a better one for you guys. They're usually not this hard. Once again, connecting rod, bottom dead center. I'm going to try to just pull this out with my hand this time. And it is coming out. As you can see, try to pull it straight up if you can, not to damage anything. Boy, this one's tough. Okay, there we go. There's the sleeve. I'm gonna go ahead and set that down. It is super hot. And to remove the piston, you are going to put the connecting rod top dead center, and this will slide off. I'm actually going to use a little pair of pliers. And there you go, falls right out. Now you can push the crankshaft directly out or pop it out, either way. So there we have it. Have the cylinder, crankshaft, piston, sleeve. As you can see, the piston definitely hammered out. A lot of flights on this. As you can look at the head, little burn marks. And the sleeve, you probably can't see it. Brand new one comes with a bunch of honing marks inside. This one you can see a little bit, but very little. And obviously this is why it was so hard to get out. So the oven is your best friend, basically. So 350 degrees, initially 15 minutes. It should come directly out. If not, keep going in for about 5 minutes at a time and just work itself out. Okay, so next, before we rebuild completely with all new stuff, my favorite cleaner is denatured alcohol, and my best friend is Q-tips. Denatured alcohol actually dries really quickly, so basically polish and try to clean everything you can up, obviously when everything cools. And next we will change the rear bearing. I'll show you guys how to do that. It involves the oven again as well. So for now, that's it. Okay, so now that the motor, or the crankcase, is completely disassembled and has cooled down to normal temperature, I have cleaned as much as possible as I can with Q-tips and denatured alcohol, as I told you before, which is the best cleaner. I use it to clean everything. Even after I fly, I'll spray it down. It cuts right through the nitro, which is really great. So we're going to move on to changing the rear bearing. As you can see, this bearing is bad. It's rusted, and if you stick your finger in it and move it, you can feel it's notchy. So it's definitely time to replace it. If you're going to be rebuilding the whole top end, you might as well replace the rear bearing as well. The front bearing doesn't really need to be replaced so often. As you can feel, it's still smooth. This motor's been bad. It's been sitting for over 2 years. No after run oil, no nothing. So this is about as bad as it can get. So once again, we're going to preheat the oven to 350. I'm going to stick it in there for about 15 minutes. And I'm assuming we're going to have problems again getting it out, just as we did the sleeve. So I'm going to run over to the oven and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back now from the oven. Once again, 350 preheat, about 15 minutes. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab the top of the case, and with the palm of your hand, you're going to hit it real hard. As you can hear, the bearing fell out. Try to show you here. Right there. It's a little work. Got to kind of get it out square. And there you go. There's the bearing. Everything is super hot, but as you can see, no more rear bearing. While it's still hot, make sure that front bearing is still seated. And there you have it. Your motor is completely disassembled. Next step, we are going to install a new rear bearing. As you can see, this one's pretty hammered out. Rusty. I'd spin it for you so you can hear how notchy it is, but it's super hot right now. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'll get the new rear bearing out of the package and we will go from there. Okay, so just a quick note. Go ahead and let the case completely cool. Slide on the new bearing onto the crankshaft. Make sure the cage will be facing the crankcase. As you can see, the balls, the open part, will be facing out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and throw the motor back in the oven at 350 for about 15 minutes. And what I like to do is I'll throw this whole thing in the freezer for about 15 minutes too. It helps it shrink and it'll slide in a lot easier. And I'll be back. Okay, and we are back from the oven again. And just got this out of the freezer, so we're going to slowly insert while making sure that front bearing does not move. Grab the shaft and pull. And we are set. Not sure if you can see that. Okay, so what we're going to do now, let everything cool. That'll allow the bearing to stay where it's at. And we will continue doing the top end, replacing the sleeve and the piston. And we are done. Okay, so now the motor's cooled down just a little bit. It's still a little warm. So what I want to do is take the Marvel Mystery Oil. Basically, it's an after-run oil. You can get it at any auto parts store. I like to coat everything with it. Kind of helps everything slide in together. Go ahead and coat the inside of the crankcase. Coat the sleeve, inside and out, and go ahead and coat your piston outside, connecting rod. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to insert the piston. Make sure the crankshaft is top dead center. As you can see. Then we're going to insert the piston. So you want, if you can see this little part that hangs down, it's different than the rest. That's going to go to the right side. Go ahead and drop the piston in. Ooh. Might help if you have a pair of needle nose. Go ahead and lightly grab the crankshaft. Insert the connecting rod onto the crankshaft. Now while it's still top dead center, you'll notice there's a little notch on the cylinder, and there's a little pin. You're going to line those up. So first, you're going to lightly takes a little bit to get the piston inside the sleeve. Just make sure you're lined up with that pin. So after you get the piston started, it's okay to go ahead and start pressing down. So I missed that pin just by a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab some needle nose, grab on right here and twist just a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but here's the notch. After you get it together, you're going to go ahead and press down, which everything is fully seated now, all the way around. And now you can actually spin the crankshaft. Go ahead, spin the crankshaft. Make sure it's not hitting anything. Everything's running nice and smooth. So I'm a firm believer in fully coating everything with the Marvel Mystery Oil. It keeps everything nice. After you're done flying, it's good to put a few drops in the rear bearing. It makes it last longer. It's just like your Hobbyco stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and coat everything with it. I'm going to go ahead and jam a little bit on the top here. I'm going to push the piston all the way down. I'm going to go ahead and just get it nice and lubed up. Same with the back. Just go ahead and put it on there. It'll burn off. So just give it a nice coat. As you can see, everything's running great, nice and smooth. Also, I'll close the crankshaft. Put a few drops in there. just to thoroughly coat everything. And then go ahead and spin. So basically now the whole motor's lubed up. Marvel Mystery Oil is great, prevents rust, etc. Okay, so to recap, we've done rear bearing, we've done piston, we've done sleeve, and now you just reverse the process and put everything back together. I've had a few questions on these Novarossi motors. These things produce some serious compression. So when you get them, they actually come with these little thing washers. They basically lower the compression. So depending on where you live, altitude wise, you might need to adjust it. Lower the compression, higher the compression. I'm about 7,000 feet here, so I run 2 of these. You'll know if you need to start messing with it. It's kind of a trial and error thing. If you're having an extreme hard trying to tune it, you'll know. Go ahead and start adding or removing. It takes a little while, but it'll be well worth it. These motors produce some serious amounts of power. Now, as you can see, the head, it's been dinged up. These motors are pretty big. I have it in a T-Rex 600N DFC. There's not much clearance, so go ahead and get it in there. It'll fit. It's just tight. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reassemble the same way we disassembled. So first you're going to put the cap on top. After that, you're going to put the head. And then you're going to start running your screws. Now this is important, how you screw these down. Pretty much everybody's changed a tire on a car. You don't want to straight go around with the lug nuts. You want to do a crisscross pattern. We're going to do the same here. So basically we'll start here, snug, 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 and then continue the process as you crank them down so we get an even amount of torque. I use blue Loctite. It's not recommended, but I use blue Loctite on everything. I don't think it really matters. Once the heat hits, it's going to burn it off anyway. So it's just something I do. Factory doesn't recommend it. It's not going to really matter whether you do or don't use it. One other thing I'd like to throw in there. You can actually use a Dremel and Dremel out the bottom of this rear case, which allows you to use the Spectrum RevMax sensor. And if you don't like to use the magnet, obviously on your fan, which I don't, the RevMax limiter basically picks up the crankshaft every time it spins. I think you get a better reading on that for your governor. So it is possible. You just got to be careful. Go ahead and grind out a few of those little fins on the bottom. Stick it on. Insert the RevMax, and the Spectrum sensor works as well. That's actually the one I use. Once I get everything put back together, I'll go ahead and show you how that works. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Once again, all the parts are available at Planethobby.com. This is the Novarossi Rex 57HR-3D and the HR-3DS. The only difference between the HR and the HR-3DS is the HR has a 2-needle carb and the 3DS has a 3-needle carb. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know on my Facebook.